Okay, so here we are. This is the first lecture at Macroeconomics 201, and this is going to be the introduction. We're not going to cover a whole lot today, but I'm going to take the class time to try to explain to you what economics is all about and how this course is organized. First of all, I got an email from a student who was a little confused when he looked at the course plan on the internet, and it was an online course plan, but it's the same one for you all. There's three sections of macroeconomics. Two of them are online, and one is this one here. And the only difference between the two courses is that you have decided to attend the live lecture, but everything else is the same. I'm being recorded as I speak to you right now, and when the class is over, I'll put this video on the internet. And in fact, you can see all my lectures from the spring semester on the internet. And so the online students can watch this lecture on the internet. And that is really the only difference between this section and the online section. All the tests are the same, all the rules are the same, all the dates are the same. I mean, there's really no difference. So you're going to have to make a decision whether you want to really stay in this section or after I show you how this course is organized. If you think that you would be better served in the online section, then now is a good time to switch this section into the online section. So just keep that in mind as we go through this thing. One difference, though, between the two courses is that, as you noticed, I had an attendance sheet that I had to pass around. And I am required to take attendance. A big part of what economics is all about is to know why certain things are as they are. So the question is, why do I take attendance? And the answer to that question is because of the federal government. Because 80% of you are receiving government aid. And the federal government wants to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. So that if any of you were to fail, and I couldn't prove that it was for attendance reasons, then the school would have to pay back the federal government all the money they paid you. You understand that? So that is why I have to take attendance. Otherwise, I probably would not take attendance. I mean, you are all adults, and I would treat you so, but one of the signs of the times is that we're all being regulated more and more, and this is just part of it. Okay, now one of the reasons why I mention that is not just the attendance, but when you, as we go through this semester, my main objective is that you are aware of things going on, especially in an economic sense, and that through that awareness, you hopefully will be able to make better decisions. Okay? So, any questions about that? Now, one thing I've learned in the past is I like to ask questions, but I found that students are sometimes intimidated when I ask questions. So I try not to ask questions, or if I do ask a question, then I try to answer it myself. But this will be a much better, more interesting semester the more questions you ask. Now, as we go through the semester, hopefully you'll have plenty of material whereby you're going to ask questions of, why is this so? And maybe I don't know all the answers, but through that question and answer, I think we can really make this a very dynamic, interesting course where I'm not, always the one that's talking and showing videos and things like that. And I don't talk the whole semester. I mean the whole period. Every period I'll show you a short video. Every period I bring in the Wall Street Journal and other news sources, but usually it's Wall Street. And for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I relate economics to current events. And hopefully, that will bring forth some discussion. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and show you how this course is organized. And this here is your website outside of Blackboard. Now, one of the reasons I have a website outside of Blackboard is for marketing reasons. Anyone that wants to know what this course is all about can, avail all these materials, without having to go into Blackboard. And but you can avail all these course materials outside of Blackboard. However, you remember what I said about attendance? Well, what about my online students? Well, I have to have a way to take attendance, but they don't attend class. So I have a blanket rule for all my students, and that is that you must log into Blackboard at least once every 10 days, or you may be withdrawn from the course. So now, it would be too difficult for me to identify, who's online and who's not. So that rule applies to you as well. Now, when I say log in, when you go into your SIS, you're going to see your courses, right? And you click on Econ 201, and then that brings you into Blackboard. Well, you've logged in. That's all you got to do. You don't have to take a test. You don't have to take a quiz. You don't have to do anything. You can just log in and log back out if you want. But when you log in like that, there's a date and time stamp in Blackboard. So if someone comes to me and they say, well, when's the last date that this student was in class? Well, I can go over to Blackboard and there it is. See that? When you log in, that shows that on that date you were active in the course. And that's what the federal government is interested in. Is this student active in the course? Okay? So, now, I have never withdrawn a student that failed to log in after 10 days without sending an email. All right? I mean, don't get uptight about this thing. I mean, if you fail to log in, it's very easy for me to measure this. And there's 40 students here, but I've got over 100 students in my online course. So I've got about 150 students just in this one course, and I teach 4 courses. So I apply the same rules to everybody. And so if you fail to log in, there's a way for me to easily see that. And so I will send you an email and say, hey, look, it's been over 10 days, you better log in. Now, if you don't respond to that email, I may send you a second. It just depends. But, if you're not answering your email, and that's another thing. You all have email of New River Community College, your VCCS email. And that's the only email that I use. There's also a reason for that. Okay? It's got to do with the federal government. It's got to do with privacy laws and all of that. Okay? So use your VCCS email, even though you've got some other email. So what I do is I'll email you on your VCCS email. So you should check that often. Okay? Just get used to using your VCCS email. and it'll save a lot of heartache. And in addition to that, there's things that maybe you ought to know, certain announcements for this or that, and so it's very easy for me to email all my students with a click of the mouse, and mass email. So that's another reason why you want to get into the habit of at least referring to your New River email on a regular basis. So 10 days, remember that? You must log in to Blackboard at least once every 10 days. Now, these tests are available, and all the materials are available the whole semester. I mean, you can go in right now and take all 8 tests, and you'll be finished with the course. All right. So all the materials are available, but but when you log in, you don't have to take, you don't have to do anything but log in. Anyway, any questions about that? Okay, well, let's go to the website then, and I'll just show you around a little bit. And the website, by the way, is the New River website, and it's in /ECO 201, ECO for economics. And there's everything on this website that's in Blackboard except for the tests. And I'll get to that. I'll explain to you how the tests work when we get to that point. So anyway, if you click on syllabus, of course, this is the syllabus, and it gives you the basic overview of the course. It doesn't give you the specifics, but it does give you the basic overview of the course. As you see here, grading and evaluation. An A is at least 720 points. Now, this is something that some students just have difficulty with. Your grade is not based on a percentage, right? Your grade is based on how many points you get. Now, what isn't, okay, I'm going to answer this myself, right? I'll ask you a question and I'll answer it myself. What is an A in most courses? Well, an A is 90%. Now, we have 8 tests in here. 8 tests of 100 questions each. So what is 8 times 9? 72. So in other words, if you take all 8 tests and you get a 90% average, that would be 720 points. And that would be enough for an A. All right? But there are 2 additional ways that you can earn points. You can write a 10-point essay on one of 4 topics that I give. And you can write summaries from the Wall Street Journal. And I'll show you how that works in Blackboard. But you write summaries of at least 120 words. And you don't have to, all you got to do is read an article from the Wall Street, and you cite the article, the date, the author's name, the name of the article, and you simply summarize what you read, and that's worth 2 points. And you can do 20 of those. So that's 40 extra points that you can earn if you want, plus the 10, so that's 50 total. So let's say you take your test and you've got 700 points. Well, what can you do? Well, let's say during the semester you earned 20 points with these 2 other ways of earning points. And so even though you only got 700 points on the tests, you would still get an 8 because now you've got the 720 points. See how that works? You know, sometime near the end of the semester, I would often get a question from students say, gee, I'm just so close to a higher grade. What can I do to get the higher grade? Well, see, I have a specific answer to that question. I can say, because there is now, if you're more than 50 points away from a higher grade, then it's not going to help you. But 50 points is significant, all right? Plus, of course, by getting in the habit of reading the Wall Street, and it's something that we use almost every day here in my lecture, it'll make this course a whole lot more interesting. And I'll show you, but you can subscribe to the Wall Street. It's only $10 for the whole semester, and that includes the print version and the online version. So that's pretty cheap. Then you might ask, well, do I have to subscribe to the Wall Street in order to join this do these summaries? And the answer is, well, no, you don't. I mean, the library has the Wall Street Journal, so you can go to the library if you want. But there's a lot of students for $10, it's convenient, and every semester I have, several students, sign up for Wall Street. There's a link that you go to, I'll show you, that you just go to the link and you put in your information, and that's all there is to it. Pretty simple. So any questions about that? So anyway, this is something that you want to read here about the general description of the course. This, by the way, this is macroeconomics. Now, for many majors at a 4-year university, macro and micro are required, especially if you're in some kind of business field. So the principles of macroeconomics, that's 201, and the principles of microeconomics, that's 202, are required, for many majors. So this is macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, macro is a Greek word meaning large. In this course, it's like we're flying over the economy in an airplane, and we're looking down, and we're seeing how everything fits together. See, in macroeconomics, we look at things like money and banking and interest rates and economic, growth and fiscal policies, the role of government, just really a whole lot of stuff. It's called the Principles of Economics, and in the introduction to the book, I give you most of those principles. See, what economics is all about is an economic way of thinking, first of all. It's a thought process. But in order to think a certain way, you've got to understand and learn to apply certain principles. And that's what we're going to spend the next week or two on, is learning these tools that you can use in order to evaluate and make good decisions or make intelligent opinions about what is happening in the world. Okay, so that's why we call this the principles of economics. Now, how many principles are there? Well, there's not 100, there's not 50, there's really just a handful of principles. But the principles will teach you how to think and to evaluate things a certain way. Microeconomics, on the other hand, micro means small, and in microeconomics, involves more of the decision-making process of economics. How do you think when you make a certain decision? How does a business owner decide how many units to produce to maximize their profits or minimize their losses? Sometimes microeconomics is called price theory. Why prices are what they are, but It's really the decision-making process of economics. Now, the two overlap somewhat, but the main thrust of the course is different. So I don't lecture to microeconomics, although I teach it. I've got one section. Macroeconomics seems to be a whole lot more popular. I have 3 sections of macro and only one of micro. But anyway, that's the difference between macro and micro. And here in New River, we teach macro first and micro second, although with today's online offerings, it really doesn't make any difference. You can take one before the other and vice versa. If you were to take this at Tech, my biggest worry is that Tech and Radford will someday offer economics online. But they haven't done it so far, and I tend to pull a lot of Tech and Radford students, maybe for that reason. But anyway, if you were to take econ at Tech, they offer micro first and macro second, and at Radford University they teach it the way we do, macro then micro. Now that could be important when you transfer. And I assume that all of you are going to transfer because that's what kind of course this is. So if you were to take the second part somewhere else, you've got to make sure that you get 1 semester of macro and 1 semester of micro. Okay. I mean, I've had students in the past not know that and take 2 semesters of macro. Well, that, you don't get 6 hours credit for taking 2 semesters of macro. 1 semester here and 1 semester somewhere else, or vice versa. This is the textbook I'm going to explain to you. It's a book I wrote myself, and but we'll get into that. But because I wrote it myself, I was able to offer to you for free, and it's online, and I'll show you how that works. The online book is much better than the printed version. It's newer. It's just better. I really prefer that you read the online version, or at least maybe both. But the referencing I do is always with the online version, not the printed version. See, if you click on textbook here, this is what the book looks like. And you click on you just click on the book cover and see macroeconomics, Austrians versus Keynesians. Brief table of contents. See, these are all the chapters. Like if you click on demand and supply, that takes you right to demand and supply, chapter 4. If you go Control F, hope this is right, Control F, that opens up this little box here, and you can do searches. Put in a word, and it'll give you all the references. I mean, this is really cool. Got a great story for you. I had a student in the summer, and I had just turned in my grades, and he got an F. And then shortly after, I got an email from him saying, well, when is the final exam? And I said, I wrote him back and I said, well, the semester's over. I just submitted the grades. And then he wrote me back. Well, what happened is that here's a fella. He's an electrician. He works a lot of hours. He couldn't come to school. He didn't own a computer, and he couldn't afford the textbook. So he read the textbook, did all the learning materials, and took all the tests on his iPhone. Isn't that amazing? Now I know that you can't, if you go to the New River website and you go on, I've got an iPad, and on my iPad, and I've got an iPhone too. By the way, I haven't silenced it, but Oh, it's in the car. All right, so I'm safe. Uh, I can't avail myself to that calendar. So in other words, he didn't know when the final date was because he couldn't get it on his iPhone. So of course I let him take the last 2 tests, and he ended up getting a C in the course. You know, I just put in for a grade change, and then F was turned to a C. But that's a great story, that that in this course you could actually take the whole course without spending any money and do it all on your iPhone. Isn't that amazing? So anyway, this book will show up. I mean, you can read this book on your, you know, I don't recommend that. An iPad would be better, or but you can read this textbook on any e-reader, you know, iPad, Kindle, you know, anything. All right. So anyway, that's the textbook, and Wall Street Journal, or let's see, let's go back to where we were here. That's the textbook. Any questions about the textbook, by the way? Okay, I'm going to explain a little bit about the textbook after I go through all this preliminary stuff. Test dates. Now, this says suggested test dates. Now, you all know what the word suggested means, right? See, most students actually, you know, I mean, a lot of them anyway, think that, you know, because you got dates here that these are enforced, but these are not enforced deadlines. But if you were to keep up with the material in a timely fashion and not get caught up late at the end of the semester with 5 tests to take, your learning process would be a whole lot better if you keep with the schedule. And notice here that it's every other Monday is what it really amounts to. These it starts September 5th, and then for every 2 weeks on a Monday, you have these 8 tests. And notice we got chapters 1 and 2, then 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and then we got a midterm. And the midterm, see, here's what happens. I've got the reason I can give all these tests like I do in Blackboard is that every chapter has a large test bank, a pool, you call it, test pool, you know, several hundred questions. So I combine the test pools for the introduction in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Okay, now you got a you know, pretty large test pool, so that when you take a test, every student gets a different test. I mean, some of the questions may be the same, but they're a different order, and it's because there's so many questions. You know, every student gets a different test, and the tests are timed at 1 hour. And every minute over the hour, I can subtract 2 points. Now, the reason I do this is that you can't, you know, this is an open book, open note test. I mean, there's no way that I can, it's not proctored, in other words, but it is timed. And but here again, don't get uptight about this. If you go over 2 or 3 minutes, nothing bad's going to happen. If you go over, you know, 5-10 minutes, I may email you and ask you, you know, why, you know, you went over the time limit. So again, you know, this is not, I try not to be hard and, you know, too hard on this, but I have to time it because they are open book, open note, and you know, it's obvious that it's not a good idea just to be able to spend all day on it. Anyway, the midterm, okay, I got a test pool for the first test pool for the second test pool for the third test. Then for the midterm, I combine those test pools. Now you've got a very large test pool, you know, well over, you know, like 1,500 questions or so. And then again, you know, every student gets a different test. There's questions are selected randomly, and although there are pretty much an equal number of questions from each chapter. I can do that in Blackboard. I can tell Blackboard, take 20 questions from this chapter, 20 questions from that chapter, 10 questions from, I can set it like that. And that's what I've done. So they're pretty evenly distributed. But now you've got a very large test pool, and you get for the midterm, which is 100 points, just like the chapter test. You got, every test is worth 100 points, including the midterm and the final. So then you go chapters 6 and 7, 7 and 8, 9. Somebody saying that right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't know how it's not coming out, but there's 6 chapters there. And then the final, I combine the test pools of the last 3 tests. So I don't go back all the way to the beginning for the final, but I just go back from, I take it from the midterm. And so you've got 6 chapter tests, and then the midterm and the final. So that's how you get the 8 tests. There are 2 points a question, 50 questions each. It's 100 points. That's 800 points. Any questions about that? Yeah.
How many questions are a test?
That's what?
How many questions are on the test?
Oh, they're all 50. Yeah, 50 questions, 2 points each. They're all that way. Everything is streamlined here. It's simplified. Okay, so that's the, I'll go back here to the beginning. That's test dates. This explains the Wall Street Journal. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if you click on this link here for a 10-week, $10 subscription, click here, and I hope this works. See, 10 weeks, $10, and that's pretty good. And so you just can order it here if you want. I advise that you do that. I mean, it's going to enrich your learning, especially. This is going to be a very interesting 3 months that we're going to be together. Major things are happening in the world, not to mention the election is coming up. I mean, it could be a very rocky ride, and even though that may not be good economically, it could make this course very dynamic, all right? But if you're reading the Wall Street and keeping up with things, I mean, you're going to learn things that it's going to blow your mind. In fact, I'm going to mention a few things today that will give you an example. So anyway, that's the Wall Street Journal. And again, I'll click on Econ 201. Question and answer, study tips. My lecture, so what's the difference between a lecture and the textbook? I mean, why not just read the textbook and, if all the information is there, why the lectures? Well, because there's a difference. The purpose of my lecture is to give you an overview of the course. I show you how A relates to B and how B relates to C. I try not to get too detailed. Now, the details come from the textbook, okay? So the lecture is the overview, and the textbook is the details. And then you have, maybe getting hit behind myself here, but you've got practice quizzes, and these practice quizzes is what gives you the practice. Like if you go to, I don't know, if you take any one, demand and supply, and that opens up in PowerPoint. I'm assuming you've all got PowerPoint. And I'm going to go to slideshow mode. slideshow mode, and the reason I do that is this. When I click, here's a question. So what you do is you take your time with this. I mean, this is after you have, the way I advise you to do it if you read those study tips is that you read the chapter before I lecture on it. Now that doesn't mean you have to study it, but just kind of briefly read it so you get a basic idea of what's in there. And then you go through the lecture, and then you read the chapter a second time, and then you go through these practice quizzes. Now when I click, here is an explanation of the answer. Here's another question. Here's an explanation of the answer. Another question. There's about 50 of these per chapter, and these questions are very similar to what's on the real test. Now imagine doing this on this fella using his iPhone. I mean, this is what he was using his iPhone for his PowerPoints. So you read the chapter, go through the lecture, read the chapter, and then go through these PowerPoints. Now, I advise you to do it in slideshow mode because your biggest enemy, your biggest threat in this course is your memory. If you're a memorizer, you may have difficulty in this course. Okay, this is a course. I mean, there's some things, of course, you have to remember. I mean, but a lot of this is learning the terms and then getting a working knowledge of the principles, and then using your common sense, logical reasoning to come up to the correct answer. See, this course is more like mathematics than it is history. In history, you might be able to memorize dates and names and things like that, but that doesn't work in economics. In economics, it's a thought process. It's a way of thinking. So you're asked a question, and then you have to think. It's like a math problem. You have to think it through in order to get the correct answer. And if you were to see the question and the answer at the same time, then you might get into memorization, and that's not going to help you. You can memorize every sentence in the book and still maybe not get more than a C in this course. So, but if you do it in the slideshow mode, see where you don't see the answer, then you mentally take your time with this. I mean, if you want this to be effective for you, you take your time with it, and you mentally pick out the right answer, and then, see, you look at the explanation of the right answer. And if you do it this way, then these quizzes will become a powerful learning tool for you. So you read the chapter, go through the lecture, read the chapter, go through these practice quizzes the way I just showed you, and then you're ready to take a test on that chapter. You do the same for the next chapter, and then you're ready to take the test. Now, along the way, by the way, ask me questions, right? I mean, either in class or email. I'm very good at answering emails. I check my emails, all through the day, and I'm very prompt and thorough. So if you ever have any questions about the material or anything, just write me an email and you'll get a response from me. So, so that's important. Now, if I go escape, I should be able to get out of here, and I'll just minimize this for now and get back to where I was. These are practice quizzes. So you use slideshow mode so that you can see the question before the explanation. And I'll go back to Econ 201. And here, you can get in Blackboard any way you want, but if you click on Blackboard here, you put your username and password in, that's how you can get in. So you can get into Blackboard from this website if you want. Econ Home, these are the other courses I teach, all online. Macroeconomics, Survey of American Economics, and Personal Finance. Personal Finance course has been a very popular course over the years. I wrote the textbook for that too, and that is also free online for students. And it's just been very popular. Anyway, lecture videos. Here are all my videos for the whole semester. These are what I did in the spring, and I have them also on YouTube. Now, the reason I do it on YouTube is that last semester I had a deaf student, and she needed captions. And so by me putting it on YouTube, she was able to go through the lectures and read the captions, because YouTube will do that for you. You set it up right. So anyway, I may or may not continue that YouTube, but it's pretty easy. So, I make these lectures available from Panopto, and then I make them available on the on YouTube. And this is first day. If you clicked on this first day, would be my introduction as I did last spring. Now, if you do this tomorrow, you will see what I'm doing right now. Assuming that I'm being recorded, I'll find out when this is all done, if I did it right. Amazing how much you can forget over the summer. Anyway, these are the, you see, if you click on, I don't know, anyone,
and as usual, I've got some news for you from the Wall Street, and I also have some news in terms of students that have been emailing me. So let me take care of that first.
so you all get the idea? I also have all my lectures as an MP3 file. So if you want to put this, listen to my lectures in the car, or while you're doing the dishes or taking a walk, you can also do that. And again, these are all lectures from the spring semester, all the way to the end. And lecture PowerPoints. These are really perhaps more for me than for you. But the way I do this is that when I'm lecturing, I follow these PowerPoints. That helps me kind of keep on track, and but these are also available to you. But when you watch the video, you'll see that there'll be a slide, and I'll talk about it, and then I'll go to the next slide, and I'll talk about that. So anyway, these are all the PowerPoints that I use in my lectures. That, of course, I've done all these myself. And internet videos. I show videos. Sometime I'll show these, sometime I'll show maybe something else, but most of the time these videos are just for interest's sake, emphasizing. I try to stick with the topic best I can, but they're meant to reinforce the principles and how they relate to what's happening in the world. There's one, let's see. This is one that think you're fine.
Great. So the best-selling textbook, economics textbook in the country is by N. Gregory Mankiw, based on these 10 principles of economics. And here they are. I'm not going to read them for you. Just take my word for it that you need a PhD in economics to understand these. Fortunately, I have one, and I have taken it upon myself to translate these principles for the uninitiated. Let's begin by separating them into the first 7 principles, which are microeconomics, and the last 3, which are macroeconomics. The difference, of course, being that microeconomists are people who are wrong about specific things, and macroeconomists are wrong about things in general. The macroeconomic principles all have the exact same translation, namely blah, blah, blah. As proof, I should only remind you that macroeconomists have successfully predicted 9 out of the last 5 recessions. And as further proof, we can now go up 1 font size. As Einstein said, everything should be as simple as possible, if not simpler. Okay, now back to microeconomics. The first one, people face trade-offs. Translation choices are bad. Right, so this is a simple syllogism. Trade-offs are bad. Every time you have a choice, you have a trade-off. Therefore, choices are bad. If you don't understand that, look at principle 2. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Translation choices are really bad. Let me just give you a simple example of this. Let's say someone offers you a Snickers bar that you value $1. Right? So your economic profit in this case is the Snickers bar minus the cost of what you give up to get it, which is nothing. Your economic profit is $1. Now, somebody offers you a choice between a Snickers bar, which you value at $1, and some M&Ms, which you value at 70 cents. Now your economic profit is the $1 minus the 70 cents, only 30 cents. You begin to see why choices are bad. The worst possible situation, in fact, would be someone offering you a choice between a Snickers bar and an identical Snickers bar. Now, people who are not trained in economics might think that that's no different from being offered 1 Snickers bar, but that sort of sloppy thinking will never get you a tenure-track position. Great, let's simplify this. So choices are bad, really bad. If you don't understand why choices are bad, you're probably stupid. Next principle, rational people think at the margin. Translation, people are stupid. Now, it is immediately obvious to the most casual observer with the meanest intelligence that people do not think at the margin. Nobody goes to a grocery store and says, I'm going to buy an orange, I'm going to buy another orange, I'm going to buy another orange. But if people don't think at the margin, and if, as Mankiw says, rational people do think at the margin, we are led to a most unhappy conclusion. People are not rational. People, in other words, are stupid. But don't fear for the fate of humanity yet. Take a look at the next principle. People respond to incentives. Now, the dictionary says that incentive is a noun that means something that influences to action, synonym motive. So what Mankiw is saying here is that people are motivated by motives, or that they are influenced to action by things that influence them to action. Now, you may think this is a bit like saying tautologies or tautological, right? I mean, people would have to be pretty stupid to be unmotivated by motives, or to be influenced to inaction by things that influence them to action, right? But remember principle 3, people are stupid. Hence the need for principle 4 to convince us that people aren't that stupid. Great, so simplifying again, let's move on to free trade, our favorite topic. Principle 5, trade can make everyone better off. Translation, trade can make everyone worse off. I have a proof that will blow your mind of this fact. Here we go. Compare the following 2 statements. One is trade can make everyone better off. The other is trade will make everyone better off. If you had to choose between those, it's no contest, right? Claim number 2 is better. But Mankiw uses claim number 1. And there's only one explanation. Claim number 2 has to be wrong. In other words, trade can make some people worse off, and it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from there to trade can make everyone worse off. Some people apparently didn't like this deconstructive proof or destructive proof. They wanted a constructive proof, so I added this footnote there of the details. Now notice the final two here, governments are stupid, governments aren't that stupid, follow immediately from principle 5 in its translation. Trade can make everyone better off, what the heck do we need government for? But if trade can make everyone worse off, we better have a government around to stop people from trading. Here are the principles of economics translated, and there's my website, standupeconomist.com. Thank you for your time.
So that gives you an idea of some of these videos that I'll show you. I mean, some are humorous and some, some are more serious, and there's just a big, wide variety of short videos like this. And hopefully they'll be able to bring about some discussion. Anyway, these are the internet videos. Let me just give you any questions about anything I've done so far. By the way, I've covered all the basics of the course. That's what I intended to do this class period, is to give you that overview. Do y'all understand how the game works now? I must have done a good job. No questions. Okay. I've got, just to give you an example of the kind of things that we'll be doing. This is an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it says, the United Kingdom rate slashed to the lowest in history. So you see, economically, we are literally in uncharted waters. Things are happening today that have never happened before in the history of the world. Okay? One of those things is negative interest rates. Says the Bank of England cut its benchmark interest rate to the lowest in its 322-year history, and revived financial crisis era bond buying program to cushion the UK economy from the aftershocks of the vote to leave the European Union. And then this here says that negative rates upend the world. And America is headed toward negative interest rates. Now, negative interest rates are already common in Europe. If you have a mortgage, then the mortgage company writes you a check for interest instead of you writing them a check. If you put money in the bank, then you pay the bank in order to keep your money instead of the bank paying you interest. That's what negative interest rates are. Isn't that amazing? Now, negative interest rates cannot exist in a free market. That's impossible. But see, our financial sector is not a free market. It's government controlled. And only in a controlled market could you have negative interest rates. Okay? Pretty amazing. So we are definitely on uncharted waters. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details. I mean, how is it we got negative interest rates in much of the world? I mean, and for what reason? Then we get into Fed Reserve, central banking. I mean, these things take a whole semester to discuss. All right. I mean, this is just the first day. But these are the kinds of things that we talk about. Here's another article from the Wall Street. Preparing for a world without cash. And this is the direction we're going as well. We are entering a world where currencies will be eliminated. That dollar bills is what we call currency. I've got a few dollar bills here. These, I got a 5 here and I got a 20. This is currency. But we are moving very quickly to where currency will no longer be used. We're headed toward a world of a cashless society, where money is only virtual. And we've got practically a whole chapter on this, so I can't but money is only debits and credits on a computer somewhere. I mean, if I give you this $20 bill, that simply means, that signifies that you're $20 better off and I'm $20 poor. And that's all money is. Money is just, debits and credits. And so most of our transactions today are virtual. When you use a debit card, for example, it's just your bank account is debited by X number of dollars, and someone else's account is credited by X number of dollars. It's just debits and credits. See, money is illusionary. It's not physical. These are physical, but these only represent something that is not physical. Now, in economics, we look at the ramifications of such a thing. I mean, is that a good idea, or is that a bad idea that we're headed toward a cashless society? And in almost every case, there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. There are good points and bad points. So, as economic students, we learn to evaluate the pros and cons. Now, the pros, in terms of a cashless society, is that, the government will tell us that it will minimize, it gives the government more control over illicit activity, like the drug trade, for example. That if we don't have currency and everything is virtual, then every transaction can be recorded or is recorded. So it makes it more difficult for people in the drug industry to hide their transactions. It is very convenient. We're headed toward the point where it's already in use, where you can buy with just your fingerprint. Apple with their iPhones, with Apple Pay, it's it's your identity. So it's very efficient in that way. Now, what are the disadvantages? Well, now, you see, if, let me bring out this cash again. If, let's say that you all was dealing with one another with this currency. Now, let's say I'm the federal government, and you all are citizens, and you all are buying and selling amongst one another using currency. Now, what control do I have over your transactions, over what you do and don't do? Well, I don't have any control because you are dealing with one another, and I have, I'm not involved. But if you don't have this currency, and everything you do is virtual, and I can control the computers, then that gives me more control over you. Like if you voice certain opinions that I don't like, well, I can just eliminate your I can make it so you can't buy or sell. If your political views are a certain way that I don't like, well, I can make it very difficult on you because I control your ability to buy and sell. So if we go to a cashless society, you see, then there's a potential of citizens losing their freedom because it gives either the federal government or whoever is in control, central authority, all the power. Does that make sense? Now, why did I mention this? I mention this because this is what economics is all about. All right? Economics is, how does the world work? and what are the good things, and what are the bad things, and what is the end result of this or that. So we talk about these things, through the semester. We're going to talk about such things all the time. We're going to talk. There's almost a whole chapter just on money and banking, and you're going to learn about virtual currencies like the Bitcoin. Is becoming one of the most popular virtual currency. Bitcoin will more than likely replace national currencies. See, Bitcoin is no country or person has any control over Bitcoin. And Bitcoin can only come into existence through a prescribed way. And it's limited to how many units can come into existence. And it's an international currency, and it's been used more and more. The disadvantage with the American, just a second, I'll get to it. The disadvantage with the American dollar is that the federal government I take that back. The federal government doesn't control our money supply. It's against the law for our federal government to have anything to do with our money. Our money is controlled by the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is a private corporation, not a part of our government. So the Federal Reserve can simply create money at will, which it has been doing greatly, to the tune of about $60 to $80 billion a month for the past 5 years, called quantitative easing. But Bitcoin so Bitcoin is a more stable currency than national currencies, like the American dollar. And that's got huge ramifications to, the world that we are a part of, and the world is changing. Now, you had a question back there?
Yeah, isn't it illegal to transfer bitcoins to actual currency?
No, it's not illegal. No, I mean, Bitcoin is, you can buy and sell. I mean, there's lots of businesses online that deal. Even I had a veteran last semester, and the veterans on their website, they accept Bitcoin. No, Bitcoin is becoming very popular, and it can be used. Who's ever willing to accept it. I mean, you got a buyer and you got a seller here, and if both the buyer and the seller agree to this method of transaction, then it works. Yeah.
Didn't our federal government actually buy a portion of it?
Oh, I don't know.
They did. The largest portion of it.
Well, I know they would love to put it out of business. Because it is competition to the U.S. dollar, and it takes some control away from our monetary authorities. Now, I like to say monetary authorities because it's not federal government. And when I say monetary authorities, it's not American. It's international. It's worldwide. I mean, the monetary authorities that control our money supply is not American. It's a worldwide group. Any other questions? Well, partly I've done this just to kind of maybe pique your interest. I mean, this could be a very interesting, dynamic course, especially as you learn more and as you're able to ask more questions and maybe I know the answers, maybe I don't, but it's going to be fun learning more about how the world works. All right, well, if there are no more questions now, what are y'all going to do before next time? Read actually it's the introduction. There's an introduction that we go over first before we get into chapter 1, but read the introduction, and then next time I'll hit the floor running with the introduction, okay? So I'll see you all next time.